All right. Welcome, everybody, to episode 2 of the Super Smash Show, coming to you live from AON Gaming every other Wednesday, except for today. We got a little bonus episode. And on this bonus episode, I am joined by Subtle.
What's
Hello.
up?
And Max Ketchum is here as well.
going on,
as
man?
our very nice special guest. So, this week, our big topic of discussion is going to be the Smash Ultimate rule set. We want to kind of break it down. There's a lot of things to discuss. Since the game has so many more options than any other Smash game, we wanted to kind of pick at it and see what our, takeaway was for what we would do as rule sets. But before we get to that, I want to quickly address some of the news that came out over this past week, because there's been some interesting developments regarding the Smash Ultimate potential roster. I'm sure you guys heard of this. We are looking at probably a slowdown of reveals. Sakurai was in an interview recently. He was telling everybody that, cool the jets. There's going to be a few more character reveals, but they got a little out of hand in the beginning, so he said. And, now they want to slow it down. I don't know if you guys saw that this week at all, but...
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine that, we're pretty close to the release date, so I can't imagine that we're going to get that many more. I was, maybe 2 or 3, something like that, I would think, but... Still, I feel like we already have so many characters included. Like, it's already been revealed that we have no previous characters that may or may not. So it's not like we're on the fence about characters who have been previous Smash that might. So it's only going to be new characters, and we already have so many that I can't imagine that. What other big names are missing is the kind of thing. Is if I'm thinking of characters that are missing, now that we've got more Animal Crossing and stuff represented, I can't imagine that there's that many more that are still missing that we're going to find out about. But yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that until you told me just before the show that Sakurai had said that in the interview. So definitely, sad news to some degree. Everybody wants 100 characters, myself included, for sure.
Course.
But either way, I think it's to be expected. There's 2 months left, effectively. We've been getting a direct in the early part of each month. So if we could keep that up, maybe a surprise direct announcement sometime soon for October, then maybe one in November, right? And maybe 1-2 characters each, if that, right?
Yeah.
There could be no Smash at all.
Yeah. They've done, besides the Isabelle reveal, which was just Isabelle by herself, the other reveals have all been multiple characters at once, and at least 3 or 4 for each one. So to slow down to maybe 2 a month from here until launch is pretty reasonable, I'd say. It goes against some other evidence that we've seen. So there's this whole box art theory where there's a certain number of empty slots on a certain piece of official box art, and people are piecing it together. Oh, if there's 8 slots, that means there's 8 more characters to be revealed. It makes sense. But if Sakurai is saying they're slowing it down, maybe he's kind of putting a halt to that theory right out the gate.
It's also hard to know. If he's saying that we're going to slow down, does that mean they're slowing down just brand new characters? Do they count the clone characters when they're talking about that?
Right.
Or the Echo Fighters? Are those going to be counted in, oh, we're slowing down? Or are they still going to go with Echo Fighters and not really factor that into the slowing down part? So it's hard to know. We've already had a lot of Echo Fighters. I know the one that a lot of people have talked about is Shadow or something for Sonic is probably the most obvious one that could be happening, but it's hard to know for sure.
Yeah, I think one thing I've learned from Nintendo and especially Sakurai is that misdirection is in their playbook all the time, right? So when they made that image of the official box art, do you really think they did the math and specifically removed that many characters, or do you think they're just you know what, all these nerds are going to go nuts analyzing this, so let's just make it look like this, easy, remove a couple panels, and then that's what it is, and people will go crazy over it, or maybe there is some truth to it, but also Sakurai saying he's slowing down, right? Wasn't Brawl supposed to be his last game, and then Smash 4 was
he
supposed to be his last game?
always does that. He's like, "Oh, I'm done."
Yeah, imagine he's
after these 12 characters.
Yeah, he's gonna be like, "Guys, I'm so tired. I've worked to my limit. This is all I've got left for you. It's just a little bit." And then like you said, 12 characters. The guy's crazy.
And then
man.
10 more DLC characters. Yeah. He's never gonna quit, despite what he says. And I think that maybe he's. It's a translated article, so maybe there's some finer details that we're missing, he's going to slow down on the character reveals. Maybe he only considers new character reveals, real reveals. So maybe there's 2 new characters, but if there were 6 more echoes, then that would be the 8 on the box art we were talking about. There's many ways for all of this to all be true and still not conflict with what seems like conflicting pieces of data.
Yeah, plus like I remember hearing like some rumors, and obviously they weren't valid, like that after Smash 4 they were worried that there was too many characters and that the next Smash game would actually have fewer. They would reduce the roster, which they went the complete opposite direction. They're like
Right.
any character who's ever been in a Smash game is in, plus more. So like it's hard to know exactly what they mean by slowing down. I mean, maybe there's only going to be a couple directs, but we get a lot in each of them. It's hard to know exactly, but yeah, either way, we're coming toward the end here. Only a couple of months, like you said, so there's only so much time that we have to find out about
Right.
more stuff.
Dude,
We'll
I
know
can't
soon
wait.
enough. There's less than 10 weeks, so we are approaching single-digit
Countdown.
territory. Yeah, you can count it on your hands. It's getting close.
And plus, they have to save some for DLC too, right? Because as much as you want on the cart itself, I'd still rather a bunch of sick characters come out because they have more time. I'd gladly pay for it, like whatever, take my money. Nintendo.
Yeah, the precedent
Right.
is there too for DLC. So like, I think either way, even if they only do 2 or 3, and there's someone that people are really upset didn't make the cut, there's still plenty of room for time down the road with DLC that they could still make it in the end.
Totally. Yeah. So speaking of new characters making it in, there is one other piece of news I wanted to discuss this week, and that is regarding the YouTube playlist and the official Smash website updates. So there was an update this week to the YouTube playlist that was noted by people, I guess, that are subscribed, but there was no actual changes to the playlist. So what we're thinking is there's some sort of change behind the scenes, maybe an unlisted or private video that was uploaded or something that it could indicate that there's a new character. It was in the new characters playlist, and there was no change visible, but there was clearly a change as we were indicated by the YouTube algorithm. So that's got to mean something. Plus, like you were saying before, there was something on the dojo that got updated.
Yeah, they took the new prefix off of the characters that had most recently been revealed. So,
Right.
like you said before, that means something is going to be new in its place, right? And plus, it's inevitable at this point, right? The game comes out in 2 months, so they're definitely going to give us a little bit more. Isabel's not the last character.
Right. Without being too much of a nerd about it, the last time that the new prefix was taken away on the site, we got a trailer 7 days later. So we are looking at, I would say, a window that's probably within 5 to 10 days. We're probably going to hear about a new character. Maybe 5 days from now, we'll hear a new Nintendo Direct. It's going to come up.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
could
be
see,
surprised.
Today's Wednesday, so by next Friday or something like that, a week and a half, probably somewhere in that time frame, we at least hear about an upcoming Direct, even if it doesn't actually come out by then. But yeah, I mean, not surprising, like we were talking about, new characters are going to come out. But I think the thing to note is that obviously they're like right on the cusp. They're like prepared to make like an announcement. So
Yeah.
we're going to get something soon, is by all indications, which
Right.
is exciting.
I am very excited.
Yeah.
Who do you guys have for the next reveal?
I was talking about it last time that I thought like a Rex Pyra thing from Xenoblade
Okay.
Chronicles 2, just because Shulk's already in there, so I could see that, and that was such a huge seller for the Switch. So
Yeah,
I think
that game blew up.
yeah. So I would think something like that, even if maybe it's this one, maybe it's the next announcement. I still think that's coming at some point, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's got to be coming at some point, too. My bet was that would be DLC.
true.
My initial bet was we would get Isabel, and then I correctly predicted that one.
Mhm.
And then alongside that, I said I think we're going to get a new Pokemon. Maybe like Incineroar is a
Right,
popular
right.
choice right now. I think some new Pokemon is going to show up in some capacity. And with the timing of this announcement, I want to cross-reference. I don't know off the top of my head. Do either of you know when the new Let's Go Pikachu or Eevee comes out?
Yeah, that's
so-
November, I'm pretty
Yeah, it's
sure.
around the same time as Smash comes out, I think.
what I
within
was
a
gonna
couple
I think
say-
it's early November, and Smash is early
something
December.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, November is always Pokemon month, and it was actually Smash month too. It's when Melee and Smash 4 both dropped.
Smash 4 dropped on the same day as like Sun and Moon or something, was it?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, that was
And
crazy.
Very close to the launch date of Melee, if not exactly the same date.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they always drop Pokemon titles in November. Would not be shocked to see the November Direct reveal Incineroar or some other Pokemon. This one, if there is one in October, I have no idea, man. I think Ken is really likely. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a natural fit with Echo Fighters being a theme in the game. Shadow could happen. I don't need another Spin Dasher, though, man.
Yeah, no, I'm really not about that. I mean, I know there's a lot of Shadow the Hedgehog fans out there, and I'd be very happy if they were happy, but
Yes,
not at
I
the
don't
expense of the
really
metagame.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Sonic with a gun.
Yeah, that's the
that's
last
true.
thing we need
Spare
is
me.
give him more camping tools. So so my bet's on some sort of Pokemon, but I guess that depends on when exactly. Because if they time it right, they could do like one big Pokemon push. This could be like a Pokemon
True.
Direct, and then like at the end of the Direct, surprise, there's a Smash announcement on this Pokemon Direct.
Haven't they
I don't
done
know.
that?
They did that recently with
Yeah.
this most recent Direct. It wasn't a Smash Direct at all. It was just a Nintendo Direct about Nintendo games the whole way
Yep.
through. And then at the end, they kind of snuck that Smash information at the end. So I figure if they're going to
You're
do
talking about
that.
with Isabel. Is what you
Yeah.
mean.
No,
Yeah.
they did
exactly.
it with Pokemon specifically, I'm pretty sure, for Smash 4, I think.
Oh, did they? Is that how
I
they-
don't remember what character it was. It might have been
Oh.
Greninja, but
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
pretty sure that
Yes.
happened. Yeah.
Well, that's
pretty
why
sure.
I thought, because the last time that I was on the podcast with you, I was saying Rex and Pyre, and then they did, the last Direct also had, like, the new content that was released for Xenoblade
Right.
Chronicles, so I was like, oh, maybe they're going to tie that in.
That would have
Instead,
been a good spot.
they tied in the Animal Crossing, so,
Yeah.
you know, that could still happen down the road.
So
but
that
yeah.
that actually makes me less inclined to believe that there's like going to be a Rex or Pyra.
Yeah,
Because they
I
already
agree.
kind of missed the boat, unless this new
Unless
Direct
there's more.
has more
Xenoblade
info
yeah.
on that.
I guess
So-
we could get like a pretty good, like that's a good way to maybe we'll be dropped a hint early in the Direct, whatever like is the big, you know, game that they're talking about, the big franchise, that might be the one that at the end of the Direct we get
Right.
some Smash character news from.
It would make sense.
So-
All right. So I think it is now time to move on to our main topic, which is going to be talking about the Smash 4, the Smash Ultimate rule set. But I mean, well, I'm not entirely wrong there, because before we talk about that, I think it's important to set up a framework, you know, a foundation maybe. Like, you need context to talk about a game's rule set that isn't even out yet. So let's talk about some of the finer points of maybe like the evolution of the Melee rule set, the evolution of the Smash 4 rule set, and even the Brawl rule set, which had a lot of interesting ups and downs. You were even mentioning before that Brawl rule set is kind of crazy. Like it went through some crazy stuff.
It did. I think Melee is a great place to look at first. Back in the super old school days when nobody was really connected, Smashboards was still pretty new, and
Yeah.
people were just migrating to it from all the other loose places that they talked about Smash. There was even a different rule set on the West Coast. Items were allowed for a
Yes.
couple months or years.
Japan as well, I think, allowed them for longer than we did, or less time
Oh, I
than
actually
we did.
didn't know
I
that.
don't remember
I
which.
forget. Yeah, I can't remember, but they also, yeah, they went through a whole different like
Yeah.
phase of things. Yeah.
I didn't know they had items. I actually am not familiar with their
Yeah, I'm not
rule set.
I might
history,
be
but-
flip flopping the two. I think maybe it was us that kept items on because we're a bunch of U.S. babies. And
Right.
then, you
Well,
know,
only on the West Coast. Here,
Yeah.
over here,
right.
Tri-State, at least, we've always been about that no item life. But, you saw 5 stocks decrease to 4 eventually. I think New York tournaments, would be 10 stocks to start,
Right.
super, super long ago. And then,
And probably like best of one. 'cause
right.
10 stocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you see, gradually over time, and this happens in all the Smash games, the rule set gets gradually more conservative. It's more about what is not going to interfere with the game, what's not going to make degenerate gameplay, the best option. That's why we got rid of things like walk-offs. You just sit there and back throw somebody. That's not a fun game.
Right.
You get rid of things like Poke Floats because you can camp them. I still think about that spam versus... I forget who it was. It might have been Ryoko. But either way, there's a match of spam timing someone out on Poke Floats for ever and ever.
Yeah, even Rainbow Cruise was
Yeah.
when I started playing. Rainbow Cruise was a
Mute
doubles
City,
counter pick.
Brinstar, those were all
I
legal
had
at some point.
Yeah, I was when I started playing. I had Brinstar as a singles counter pick. I think I had not Poke Floats. I had Rainbow Cruise as a doubles counter pick, and then I think there was Congo Jungle
Congo Jungle
64.
64 was a
That one
double-
lasted the longest. And
That was a doubles counter pick for a long time. I'm pretty sure
I don't
Apex
even-
2015 I think was the first major rule set that just took that out. And
yeah,
because
it faded away. I
it
don't
was
even
starting
remember
to fade
everybody
away. It was kind of just oh, well, we can't do Fountain because it lags, so we can't use Fountain of Dreams for doubles. So, but we need 5 stages or 6 stages, so we need to add that in. But
Right.
eventually, like you said, I feel like over time it becomes more conservative. We don't usually add things; we usually take away and
Right.
make some find more of like you said, just a conservative stage list or stocks. Usually, we don't add stocks. That very rarely happens. It's usually oh, this game is. I mean,
Even
recently,
64.
after forever. I
been
mean,
20 years.
Over 20 years, just took away a stock and went down to 4. So
That's insane.
that's rule sets are still evolving for games
Yeah.
that have not seen that change. I mean, 64 is the same thing. They used to have more stages. Now it's
Just
Dreamland,
Dreamland,
that's it.
Yeah. And I think
So-
64 is a great thing to point to because not only is it about shrinking the amount of jank that can happen in a game, it's also about spectatorship, right? And I think that's a big part of why Smash 4 has stayed at 2 stocks forever. 3 stock, technically, yes, you're going to produce more consistent tournament results, which is a reason why you would take stages away, for example. But then you want the game to be watchable, right? And Smash 4 with 3 stocks is still reasonable in a lot of matchups. But in a campy matchup, it's like playing 5 stocks or even 4 stocks in Melee of like floaties versus floaties. So, yeah, we just very quickly in Smash 4 decided it's going to be 2 stocks. Like, these are going to be the stages. I feel like the stage list in Smash 4 after maybe 2014 shrunk to like 5, 6 stages very quickly. Melee obviously took a lot of time due to the nature of the infrastructure in the community, right? Again, Smashboards was still new. That's why we had all this wild stuff going on. But now the process is accelerated, and it's going to be the same way in Ultimate. I think we might start with somewhat of a wide stage list, but everyone kind of knows going in. It's like, all right, we've been playing competitive Smash titles now 4 times in a row over the course of almost 20 years. We know what to eliminate right off the bat. And then I think the first time something vile happens on a stage, it's just gone, man. At a major on stream, once it happens, it's off the stage list. So that said, which stages will make the cut is really the meat of the discussion. So I'm excited for that.
Hangman and I have been doing a lot of work behind the scenes, and I don't have that list today because if we started talking about individual stages, it would take a whole episode.
Yeah.
But we've been compiling a lot of data for stages, cross-referencing them with what changes there are noticeably in gameplay demonstrations that they've had, and like cross-referencing, like, okay, this was legal here, this was legal like in Project M, like, like saying like, oh, if hazards were off, Pokemon Stadium could be illegal in some certain circumstance. And so we're compiling this big list, and there's quite a lot of decent stages. There's like 17 totally playable stages, assuming everything lines up with the no hazards thing, which we still don't know quite a lot about.
It's very vague.
Yeah.
So we won't have a lot of the facts until the game's like actually in front of us and like able to test it. So it's hard to speculate like the precise stage list, but also we have like a lot of precedent to go off of, like past stages that are brought back for Smash Ultimate that were legal in Brawl, Melee, Smash 4, any of those, probably going to be legal unless there's some like big change or some sort of like buggy.
I think it's actually the opposite, really, where like what we'll know at the beginning more than which stages are legal is the ones that aren't. Like,
that's true.
Because
also.
It's like we'll just go through the list and be like, well, that wasn't legal in the game it was in, or the remake when it was in Brawl.
Right, we have that precedent.
Like, those are going to go. Like,
both ways. It's like if something was legal, it'll probably be legal again, and if it's brought back and it was already not legal, it's very unlikely that we're going to like add it to the stage list.
Yeah.
So.
I think the only cases where it'll get added is where like a significant change occurred, or like let's say for some reason there was the consensus for Melee was that Pokemon Stadium should be banned because of the, because you can fall through the stage glitch, because of the weird lip on the right, all that stuff. And let's say those were removed, that would be a good thing to discuss about bringing back into legality if it had been banned from Melee or something like that.
Probably be only a couple of cases, I would think.
Yeah, Lilac comes to mind.
Yeah.
I hate it. I hate Lilac.
Of course,
I just want it gone.
Not a lot of Lilac fans out there.
No, and rightfully so. But in Smash Ultimate, they've kind of fixed some of the corner stuff. It still tilts, which is annoying, but forgivable. So yeah, I think Lilac's going to be a lot less controversial. Pokemon Stadium, it's funny you mentioned that. I forgot to say it earlier, but I think even now there's contention over whether that should be legal in Melee. A game that's still almost as old as Smash 64, right?
Yep.
And that would be the last like true counterpick only stage to go. I personally like very small stage lists. I would advocate to ban Stadium and Melee. I'd advocate to ban Lilac and Smash 4. And then Ultimate, you're going to see all these competing schools of thought. There's definitely people out there who think, oh, we need X amount of stages on the list for it to be fair, or there needs to be more diversity in terms of stage layouts because of, the metagame or whatever. But we're going to see, everyone's just going to get, like, down and dirty in the Twitter arguments and stuff, and you already know how it's going to be. I have a very clear picture in my head, but at the end of the day, like, look for the trend to be, whatever we start with, only shrinking in as time passes.
That is something that I agree will happen, but it's also something that is concerning me right now, because if we do start with a list of stages that's too conservative, and we narrow from there, we're going to end with like a Melee side stage list when come on, there's more than 5 good stages in this game. Like, it'd be nice to get some variety, and it'd be nice to not hear Animal Crossing music.
Yeah, actually,
really
another thing Sakurai said in an interview recently was that he specifically took note of the fact that the music was not exciting on a lot of the tournament stages, namely the Animal Crossing ones. I think he particularly referenced watching a tournament and seeing The Roost playing. That's the slow lullaby one on Smashville.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I think they're gearing it a lot more toward battle music this time, which thank God, man.
Yeah.
Give me some Square music.
There
though.
was
Give me more of that.
there was a very good remix actually of some Animal Crossing song. I don't play Animal Crossing, so I couldn't tell you. But it's on the official Smash website, the dojo or whatever it's called, and it kind of slaps. It's really good.
Dude, the KK ones are flames.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's really
yeah.
good.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good idea. I think taking note of that is like, that's nice because at least that means that they're taking more and more note of like, the competitive community, what we kind of need for a stage list. So maybe we will have more, tournament viable stages that
Yeah.
kind of fit what we are looking for as a community. But yeah, it's
What
hard to say.
I'm interested is what I'm interested in is what the new stages are going to look like. Right? We saw Moray Towers from Splatoon. No way. There's
Yeah.
just no way. But we've only
Negative
seen
chance.
very few.
Our
Very few
editor
new
is giving us
stages.
the thumbs down.
Yeah, no, that's banned already.
Yeah.
But
Super band.
yeah, there might be some more that come out. Say Rex and Pyre get announced another Xenoblade stage or a new Pokemon stage, Pokemon Stadium 3, Pokemon Coliseum,
Yeah,
whatever
I mean,
it's going to
yep.
be.
That's true.
Yeah, could be very legal and okay. And then we could have 20, 25 stages. But yeah, you do bring up a good point about should we go in with a very, very open stance and then just eliminate from there? I think generally yes. But it could backfire, right? Imagine
Of
Genesis Grand Finals get ruined by some disgusting counterpick or
Right.
like a buggy stage even. Sometimes the actual game is like a bit of a beta test in that there's still things that get fixed and they'll patch it out, right?
Yep,
Like
sure.
rightfully so. Thank God they do that, But it could happen.
No, I agree. It could. I think that the possibility of like some sort of awful bug-related issue happening in grand finals at like Evo or something is bad, but worth. You got to break some. You got to break eggs to make an omelet or whatever. Like, we're not gonna know that these things happen if we don't play on the stages. I mean, like, you gotta learn that there's a glitch somehow.
Yeah,
If we don't know, then if we know that it's there, we'll ban it, of course. But like, we're never gonna know it's there until we play on it.
I mean, it would be unfortunate timing if that was, the biggest match as we discover
Of
this
course.
bug. But, hopefully we have enough time to kind of go through the game and, troubleshoot and look through some
Yeah.
stuff and be like, okay, this is not something that we can mess with right now. Even if it happens once in like a blue moon, it's still something that you don't want to like deal with. Like it's like with Stadium and Mail. It's like that doesn't happen where you fall through that often, but when it does, it really swings a match. So it's not really worth risking a whole tournament like the integrity of the results and stuff based off of that, especially when we have plenty of other options. Like you
That's
said,
the thing.
There's so many
There's
other options.
over 100 stages. We've got to be able to find some good ones. Like, if we can't, then there's no hope for us. But I think we'll be able to get there.
I think most people are very open-minded to the idea of more stages because it's a problem in every single Smash game, right? Even down to 64.
Yeah.
There's never been more than really 6 to 8 stages, and even then, like those
Even-
8, the 7th and 8th ones go pretty quick.
Even Project M has difficulty with their stage list, and they can literally make the stages that they want. Like, that to me makes no sense.
Yep.
But, I mean, I don't know that.
Just because everyone has different opinions on what's okay and what's not, and like it's very hard to get a general consensus. So
One thing that's always weirded me out about the Smash 4 rule set is that Battlefield and Dreamland are considered the same stage.
yeah, don't get me started,
sometimes,
man.
but they're not, and then they are, and then
Yep.
you ban all Omegas simultaneously, but no one ever plays on them anyway. It's like
Yeah,
it's like a lot of that is just very very unclear, murky territory that never really got sorted out, and I think we'll have to do a much better job with Ultimate because now not only do we have Omega stages, but we have
The
Battlefield
Battlefield, right.
specifically stages,
Right.
and it's like, oh, are we gonna play on Yoshi's? Yoshi's is a tri-platform stage, but it's like,
Can
will
you
the
Battlefield mode
will the
it,
Battlefield
yeah.
one pull the platforms in a little bit, because they're kind of hang over the
Flatten
sides?
the edges.
Yeah, will it flatten those edges? Will that be the preferred version? Like, there's all this stuff that we have to consider with the 2 alternative versions of each stage.
Yeah.
3 actually, because then there's also the no hazards
Hazards off,
version.
yeah.
Will no
Right.
hazards get rid of Randall or not?
Will
We
it
don't know.
change boundaries is also a question I have. Are all the battlefields going to be created equally in terms of the platform heights
Right.
and spacing and all of this? Smash 4, not even the Omegas are identical. Some of them have the different walls and,
Yes.
different boundaries too. So, man, there's so much that just needs to be figured out very quickly. The scientists have their work cut
Yeah.
out for them already. Kurogane Hammer, I pray for you, man. Kadano, if you get into Smash Ultimate, you're in for a treat. But
Yep.
Yeah, Practical Task, man. I know he's going to go hard in Ultimate. I'm looking forward to what he brings to the table in terms of just hard science on the game. I'm so glad that those nerds are out there to do the things that I couldn't even conceive of.
Yeah. Like we're finally in an age where I think we're better equipped to tackle these sorts of things, because even with like Brawl, until we kind of cracked into the system, it was kind of difficult to be like, okay, well, this stage has a bigger blast zone, smaller blast zone, whatever. Once I cracked into it, it was fine. But then with Smash 4, we had to start all over again because we didn't crack into that system for a while.
Right.
And it was like, oh well, now we have to like figure all that shit out ourselves, and that's frustrating.
Dude,
Yeah.
I just picture M2K when he created that like AOL site, 10 years ago. No, like 15 years ago. He used like a pencil and a ruler to determine pixels, and oh my god, he went so hard for that. And
I'm glad we're not going to do that this time.
Exactly. Yeah,
Oh my God.
we have real tools, and that kind of goes back to like the whole Smashboards discussion, right? To accelerate the rule set discussion and all that, we have finally evolved to like a public forum, a truly public forum, and not just like a little community cult site like Smashboards. We have Facebook and Twitter at our disposal.
That's actually something I'm a little concerned about. Is there's going to be a very public, open discussion, probably on Twitter, probably going to be a mess, right?
Oh, absolutely. That's the drawback to the whole situation, yeah.
And I think ultimately it'll do more good than harm, but what will do more harm than good is the fact that there's probably going to be a lot of competing authorities that want to be like, this is the official Smash 4 tournament rule set, and then somebody in California is like, this is the official Smash 4 tournament rule set. And like, everybody wants to be the one calling the shots, and there's really no such thing as an official Smash 4 rule set. So what are we going to, like, do we decide in advance, like, do we pick a board, like, who gets to vote for those people?
Yeah,
like, how do we decide this?
I feel like we have, like, a pretty good infrastructure as far as, like, communicating those things, because we have these communities already established that are going to move on with the next Smash iteration.
Sure.
So, and I feel like in the past, we've had like issues with the rule set like constantly changing and trying to find something, but I don't really feel like we've had that huge of a problem with like, oh, there's 2 rule sets and there's like 2 warring factions kind of thing. Or,
Well, I wasn't even saying warring factions. What I'm really more suggesting is like right now there's a recommended melee rule set, right? And they have UCF off. The community wants UCF on. That's something that like makes you wonder who picked these guys. Like who said that they were the ones that are in charge, and who's gonna, when someone steps up to do that for Ultimate, like who died and made them president?
Yeah,
Like,
it's really tough to reach a consensus on things like that, especially because, specifically with UCF and Melee, it's because there's higher powers at play, right? Nintendo doesn't want gameplay modifications on.
But
And-
I mean, that was just one specific example.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah, of course. I just mean in general, it's hard to get people to agree on anything. Even if you get like a 51% consensus, you're still going to have effectively half the community pissed because they're not getting the rule set that they wanted, right? And it is kind of going to be a race for the throne. Like, if the SoCal rule set really catches on there and they start pushing for that. But that said, I think people know who the leaders in the space are going to be. They know each other on a personal basis for sure. Coming out of Smash 4, it's going to be mostly that crowd.
Right.
And, these people have already built a name for themselves, established credibility, and I don't think anyone is going to be too hostile or cutthroat in terms of pushing their own agenda or their region's agenda necessarily. I think it's going to be a pretty smooth and civil process. People won't be pleased at all, of course. Like, you're always going to have people complaining about any decision made.
Of course.
Just like the UCF thing. It's like, but, we, the people, want UCF,
Sure.
even though, like, you can't have it for a certain reason.
I mean, like, there's definitely like established, not like people in power, but sure, yeah, people. There's established people in power for Smash 4, but there's also a separate like organization, probably with entirely separate people that are like calling the shots in Melee. And I imagine that there's going to be tournament organizers in that faction that are going to be like, let's run some Ultimate stuff, and then they're going to put forward
Right.
their own things, and that might be different, even though like the Smash 4 community is probably going to be mostly what moves on, and that's why like you'd think, oh, the Smash 4 authority figures are going to be the ones calling the shots, but then there's pretty well established Melee guys too that have years of experience, and what if they want to call the shots differently?
Right, right.
Or at least have some input, yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and it's not like they're any less credible,
Absolutely not. Yeah, I think generally those people would still be looking to the Smash 4 people just because the engines are so much more similar. They're going to be like, all right, well, you guys kind of know what's up with this. But, of course, over time, they'll become more native to Ultimate themselves. And I think they'll be able to establish enough credibility to like really get a voice in the discussion. One thing that I really see as a potential happening in rule set discussions beyond stages is actually stock count. I know like by a 95-5 margin, people want
next
3
on my
stock
list.
right now.
Yes.
Yeah, people are very like excited to play a game that is most likely going to be faster than Smash 4, more aggressive, etc.
Yeah.
Mostly due to like the deterioration of defensive options, right? That said, we still don't know if the full game with real controllers and all that is going to play at a pace that 3 stock lends itself to. I personally am very open to starting with it, but I also think if things are dragging on, tournaments are running really late, like best of 5s are excruciating, that 2 stock and best of 5 for every single set across the entire bracket could be a great solution to
Yeah,
that.
it could theoretically be.
Just in case. That's the fallout shelter,
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. It's like, it's hard to know exactly how things are going to transpire until like the entire competitive community gets their hands on the game and we have like a large sample size to go off. It's like, who knows? I mean, there's an outside chance maybe 4 is appropriate. We really
That's
have no,
also true.
like it's possible.
Yeah,
So it's not
that's
out of the
actually
question.
that's actually my biggest push for me personally. I think 3 stocks is the best way to start because
Same.
if we have to go to 2 stocks, you just tick it down a notch. But if we start with 2 and we realize this shit's got to be 4, there's no way we're gonna add 2 stocks
Yeah,
and the
there's no way
community's
we're
gonna
gonna
be
go from
like,
2 to 4. I
that's a huge
agree.
jump. So you start with 3 and you add 1, you take away 1. It's fine either way, mostly.
Yeah, there's going to be a fracture somewhere along the way, right? But right now, I think everyone is super content with 3 stocks, so I'm pretty confident in that moving forward. I know a lot of people who were around back in Brawl probably like know me as the 3 stock antichrist because I wanted to switch it to 1. But that said, I'm not crazy. Like Smash 4, I was very pro 2 stock just because it feels right. Like I said before, the slow matchups aren't too bad, and the fast matchups aren't necessarily too fast. Sometimes they are, but
Speaking of too many stocks,
yeah, I don't know what these guys are doing. These are,
Timed
by the
out
way,
in it.
some of the best players on Long Island. Just
yeah, Vinny's back
completely
there.
toying
Oh,
around.
and of course Yoshi wins.
Of course Yoshi wins. Oh my
that's
god. Yeah, so I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Yeah, no, that was pretty much it. Like, we'll start with 3. It's a very comfortable number. Everyone's familiar with it to some degree. And yeah, if the game is the speed that we're anticipating it to be, then 3 stocks is right on the money.
Yeah, and it's interesting because like you guys were talking about UCF a little bit about how that's like kind of being dictated from Nintendo, and I wonder how much rule sets especially like stageless, because I feel like the Battlefield stages are like specifically like, guys, use this, we're giving it to you.
Yeah, make
so
it
I
look
wonder
better,
how
yeah.
long there's gonna be a little behind the scenes like, try this out. See how you guys like it at the beginning, even if we're still like,
Let's say they host an invitational, and they have stages that they offer Battlefield of all types, NFDs of all types,
right.
and that's their stage list.
That would be crazy.
I think that's what they would do because I'm sure that they think that that's what we want, and in a way, it kind of is. I mean, like triplat stages are pretty fine, and FD is a nice alternative to that.
Yeah, just a couple more layouts would really help.
Yeah, it would
Yeah.
be nice to have a few more, but I think that I think that what they're going to be trying to push is like, look at all of these stages that aren't playing the roost. Like, I think they
That's
really
true.
want that.
Spice up the backgrounds, really, is what I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, I'm not sure what Nintendo's level of involvement would be in directly controlling a rule set. I feel like that's kind of not their style. They've been very hands-off with the community. It's kind of like, we know that you guys know best when it comes to a competitive rule set.
It's true.
And, when they do invitationals and stuff, they make the rules, right? They show off the entire game. They want to show you the items, all the wacky stages.
Yeah.
They force the invitationalists to not play the same character twice in a row.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff like that, and that's good. That's what gets people excited. You can see literally every facet of the game, whereas, of course, in competition, you only see a select number of things. But I think Nintendo knows that when we're doing tournaments, like, we want to do it our way, and that's what helps them, too, because it's free advertising for them,
Sure.
even if it's not the whole game being shown off.
So you mentioned something about them not playing the same character twice in a row, and that reminded me of a thing that's further down on my list, but I forget what it's officially called.
Squad Strike.
Squad Strike. So what do you think the likelihood of that being an actual tournament regular thing?
But can you
like, what
explain
do
what that is? I don't know.
So Squad Strike, it's like a built-in crew battle, effectively, where each you
You pick
pick like a
right,
series
one
of
of the
characters.
Okay,
3
okay.
or 5 are the options.
Right, and then when you
You're-
die, you switch.
So you're saying using that built-in game mode
As a
the
tournament
format. Yeah, maybe. It's
I would
kinda
love
like
to see it for like
yeah.
an invitational or a summit
Yeah,
style
yeah.
event, right? I think it would again show off a lot of the game because you don't just see, especially if there's like a really dominant top tier character or characters, you don't just see a very small cluster. But I think everyone knows at the end of the day, it's going to be open character choice. You know, the standard counter pick system we've been working with forever and ever. I don't think anyone's going to seriously advocate for taking away like open field singles for Squad Strike, but it's going to be a great side event and spectator thing. I personally would love to see it as a main event, like a series of majors maybe, just like, these guys have not necessarily wacky rules, but something off the beaten path. And yeah, it could be a really sick circuit idea. Who knows?
Yeah, for sure.
I'm a little more willing to experiment. Like, I think it could make for an actual better bracket experience for the bulk of players. Maybe the top 5% of players are going to be frustrated that they can't just dominate with their Bayonetta over and over and over.
Well,
But
think about the lower level players too. They have to learn 3 characters now.
I suppose that's true.
Yeah, the barrier for entry is higher. That's a really good point.
That's true. I didn't consider that. I do very much though consider like the middle 50% of the bracket is probably going to be enjoying themselves a lot more, just because on average they're having more fun with each game, and that's important.
I think it would be sick, honestly.
Yeah.
I'd enter it all the time.
I would
love
totally
playing
do too.
multiple characters.
I know
yeah.
you'd enter it too. I'm sure.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, for sure. It's like a built-in like
It's like
shortened Iron Man type system.
And there's
which is really-
strategy too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wonder how deep the strategy goes with what's available in the game. So like I wonder if it's I don't, have any of you guys played like the Pokemon Stadium games?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you know when you pick your team, and then you can,
Yeah.
like they're each assigned a button, and it's like
I know what you
A
mean.
down on C
oh,
stick.
so your
Yep.
first choice is a secret, basically.
Yes,
Yeah,
or
and I wonder
like-
if they
your
would
whole
do
lineup.
that.
Yeah, your whole lineup. So
Yeah.
because you're only picking a part of the lineup in some cases, or something
Yeah,
like that. Yeah.
I think that would be so interesting. But I'm sure that that's not entirely available in the
Yeah,
game.
I feel like
That'd be so smart.
Yeah, the other problem with that though is like there could be a lot of like, because then it's like, because matchups are always going to be like really dominant in the game. Like there's just going to be bad matchups and good matchups. Like
Sure.
so that could get into a point where it's kind of RNG. Like, are you making the right choice or like?
Yeah.
But then it
Sure.
also gets to a point like, do you start picking the safer, better characters so that way you don't have to
Exactly.
worry about bad matchups?
Exactly, man.
So like
You'd have
that
to
could-
double blind too, just so you don't
Yeah,
like have to counter pick.
Right. Well, I
midway
think
through,
it
yeah.
helps against counter picks because at the very worst, you have a bad matchup for one stock, and like that's better than dealing with a bad matchup for 3 stocks or however many this game ends up playing. You know.
Yeah, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I think the format is awesome. I just don't think that most people will go for it at the end of the day to make such
Yeah.
a radical change. I actually went to a tourney back in 2008 for Brawl that had a rule where like you can't play the same character twice in a row, kind of like the
Sure.
Nintendo Invitational.
Oh, okay.
And it was very not well received at all.
Yeah.
Dang, man, that's a shame. I think this could be so cool. People would give it a chance.
I do too, but I just know the Smash community. They're very stuck in their ways to a fault sometimes.
Sure.
But it's just how it is. You can't really like uproot culture overnight, right?
I guess, but I do really think that this game is going to push the how rooted they are in their ways because there's so many new things. So let's talk
Yeah.
about the next thing that's new, and this one I think I already know the answer for most people, but like there's a built-in chargeable Final Smash meter, and obviously I think this topic's pretty much already been settled by the
Yeah.
vast majority of people, but it's something worth discussing because well. I guess the general idea is, hey, other fighting games have meters and supers.
Yeah.
How come not Smash? Like, seems like a pretty valid argument. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I'm on that side for sure.
Really?
Well, let me get there.
Okay. Okay.
To
sorry.
start, yeah, I think conceptually, Final Smash meter, awesome. Custom moves in Smash 4 were awesome. But the actual implementation of these things is what gets you, right? So in Smash 4, we obviously saw some customs were just unacceptable for tournament play,
Sure.
right? Namely Villager, DK, some other characters peppered in there.
Yeah, and I guess with 70 characters, 70 plus characters, however many, there's going to be a Final Smash that's like the Brawl equivalent of Landmaster, where you're just like, oh,
It's even
and
worse,
you're
though,
dead,
because they already showed us Marth's Final Smash killing at 20.
Yeah,
So
that's pretty rough.
You just can't be playing a game like that, unfortunately. But conceptually, I think there's a lot of merit to doing something like that. It could be extremely interesting for spectators, too, right? And it is kind of a dry point for Smash compared to a lot of these fighters where in tournament play, you're never going to see like a cinematic finish, right?
Yeah.
That's why they added the freeze, the extra freeze with
Yeah.
the lightning and Ultimate. But, having a super crazy flashy move really helps the viewing experience, and it kind of makes it feel intense as a player too. It's like, man, if I just fill my meter up, I could still win.
Yeah.
Yeah, or I could still lose to this guy.
Yeah, it's like my first like reacting to it is no. Just don't use it. But at the same time, like other fighting games do have meter, which is a good point, and it could also affect the tier list. It's like interesting to how it like plays out. Like, what if certain characters that are weaker inherently could be boosted and maybe more viable by focusing around using the final smash and like charging that meter, and maybe it makes more characters viable. I don't know. It's hard to know how, or maybe there's already top tiers that get
even better,
and then it's just like then it's hard to know how it's going to play
almost
out.
The same argument was made for a while with custom moves and like Donkey Kong, a mid tier at best, all the way shoots all the way to the top, and that's really cool because now that's one more viable character. But I think the takeaway was that it's just a bunch of nonsense. It's just too much nonsense. Like, no, and it's unfortunate because there's characters that struggle, like Palutena and the Mii fighters and stuff, that like with their custom moves, or this could also apply to final smashes in the next game, or even this game.
Character has a really good final smash. You could rely on that. Yeah.
It's also like it's tricky because I think most of all people want engaging interaction between the players. So like the Landmaster thing, or certain final smashes that just take away the interaction. It's just a press to win. You press that button and then you just like take a stock, as opposed to some other ones where you have to kind of like line it up. I mean, that's the other thing with like traditional fighters, is that a lot of them you have to find an opening.
Right.
You can't just press the button and you just take a bunch of
you
take a bunch of damage off your opponent. Like, you have to, if there's more skill involved rather than just like a press and you just can't do anything about it as the other person, then it probably doesn't belong in Smash.
Yeah, like there's a huge difference between you fill up your meter in Street Fighter, you do your level 3, if you whiff, super laggy, probably gonna get punished or whatever. Whereas we already know from Smash 4, a lot of these moves have invincibility on startup, invincibility on cooldown, invincibility till the cows come home. Like, you're just not gonna get touched, and you're not gonna get punished for whiffing, and that's really I think that's where you got to draw the line. It's like, well, if these are just going to be insta-win buttons, then is that going to make for a good viewing experience or a good playing experience?
Like,
probably not.
Yeah, like for me, I'd want the final smashes to still be like skill-based. Like, you can use them, but you have to either line up the shot or if it changes the stats, like the inherent stats of a character, where they're just like faster or strong, something like that, for a temporary amount of time, you still have to capitalize on that like small time period. But if it's, like I said, if it's just a button where it's like you can't just do anything as the opponent and you basically just die for it, then that's kind of silly, where you just have to play enough to build up a meter and then you press the button and you get a stock for free.
Yeah, it's all about how it actually plays out in the game, and I feel like final smashes with the meter have already failed the sniff test, even though they say, hey, they're weaker. When you show me Lucas dying at 20%, I'm not sold. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Seems a little not weak, actually.
Yeah, like, what's the regular one kill at?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
-10? Like,
yeah. I don't know. There's well, I think we can all come to the conclusion that like this is something that even without playtesting with them, it's probably going to be on the thumbs down side of things,
Most likely.
But who knows? Maybe in testing, this is all like speculative, but that's the fun of discussion.
Or a side bracket, man, just like Squad Strike. There's a lot of things that we could use that maybe were aimed at competitive players to give a shot that we ultimately decided we'd rather not pursue.
Yeah.
And then just make it a fun side event, because Ultimate leaves the world open. There's so many of those stages that might teeter on the edge of viability too. You just have like a nutty bracket, right?
Yeah.
Maybe no items, but meter final smashes, some questionable stages, like 5 stocks.
Going back to stages real quick, another thing that's potentially going to mix things up in this rule set is what is the official name? There's like the stage fusion mode.
Oh, stage morph.
Stage morph. Thank you. So stage morph, you'll pick 2 stages, and throughout the course of the match, I guess at a certain time interval, it just smoothly transitions one out and the new one in. Even if you could go from the Melee equivalent of Icicle Mountain to Battlefield, which is a huge radical shift, but it does it very smoothly so far. We've seen in testing and in videos, it looks pretty smooth.
I think there's frame drops, though. I think they confirmed that.
If there are frame drops, that's obviously no good.
Yeah. But it's still a demo. It's still a game in development, so I'm sure they'll figure it out.
I wanna try to have at least some give them some benefit of the doubt. You know,
Right.
if they can make this smooth and good, what do you think the probability is that we'll see it? I think that's actually better than you think. So what do you think? You're giving me
I don't think it's happening. Like, I feel like there's a lot of, but like again, It's not that I'm not open to like a lot of these things, and at least seeing how they play out once the game is final, once the game is like actually in our hands to test out, and it's like going in. It sounds like that's just way too much, and it's like, waiting, because then it could be waiting out the clock until it changes because you want that other transformation, which is probably going to detract from the actual like spectator quality as well, which is always an issue to like think about. So you can go in, maybe see how it plays out, but like right now I would say no, but it's hard to know.
So
it's possible.
my big push, and I know you're like trying to be optimistic about it, but consider this, right? Right now in every Smash game except for 64, right? Somebody gets to choose stage 1, and somebody does not. And that person that loses rock, paper, scissors is at a disadvantage off the bat, right? With Stage Morph, we could literally both pick of a set of neutral stages, the stages that we want. I could pick Battlefield, you could pick FD, or whatever legal starter picks there are available, and we could both have our way. I mean, half the time,
So you're saying, that's probably more reasonable if you're talking about for a
Just
rule set
for
where
game one.
Game one is a way. That's like a compromise to then you transition to normal counter picks. Like that's for me, that's the most realistic scenario if it's going to happen at all.
Yeah, and I think that scenario is pretty good. Like,
Yeah,
if
I
it works
thought of
good.
the same exact thing, and then you just play RPS to decide whose stage goes first, right? So you get that opening, and it's like, okay, even though I lost RPS, at least I still get to kind of play on the stage that I want.
Yeah, I mean,
That said, the degenerative potential to just camp it out until your stage comes up, okay, sure. But, it's like a minute. It's not terrible, but still a minute goes fast, or it goes
hey
slow
man,
in gameplay.
how fast does stadium transition? Does anyone camp
45
out?
seconds,
Does
right?
anyone camp out stadium until it transitions?
They do,
They
yeah,
do?
all the time.
When it's transition?
When it's transformed,
But
yeah.
those are jank transitions. Now we're talking about going from Battlefield to like
That's
right.
also
I
something
understand- I
reasonable, like
understand that.
Yoshi's,
That's
like-
definitely now. Do we know like does it constantly fluctuate, or is it
It's every
literally
minute.
just? Oh, it is every minute. Okay, like that's more reasonable than. But yeah, that is the other issue. If it does change back, it's like that's good in that you don't have. Because what I'm thinking is if it's half and half, then the person who knows their stage is going second really camps it out till things
Yeah.
favorable.
Yeah, but that's
But then- but
to
then a
make
minute
up for the
later-
disadvantage.
yeah, but that could still happen in the intervals where the person who doesn't have the stage they want, if it's especially disadvantageous, then they might really try to camp it and wait it out.
Yeah,
So like,
here's how I feel. If you support Pokemon Stadium's legality in Melee, you should support Stage Morph.
I
you know
agree.
what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's like
and I don't support Stadium.
I don't either.
So I'm not
That's-
necessarily very pro Stage Morph.
but
But
I don't think it has
can
to work
have
both
its place.
ways. It's like a square is a rectangle thing.
I
you know,
think
like-
if you want to be logically consistent, though, it's
Yeah,
like
no.
relatively the same things
I-
that you could complain about on PS1 are the same on Stage Morph. Like, oh, you just camp out until you get the favorable
Yes.
terrain,
Granted,
right?
Stadium also has its other issues.
Yeah,
like falling
Stadium
through
is
the stage.
way worse. So if you,
yeah.
especially if
Yeah,
you
yeah.
support that garbage stage,
That's what I'm saying.
you should be down for Stage.
Yeah, it's a.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It doesn't necessarily have to work both directions. Like if you support Stadium, to be logically consistent, you should support this idea of Stage Morph. But if you don't support Stadium, you can still support Stage Morph.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it doesn't have to work.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, in that regard, yeah, like all insects are bugs. Yeah, squares are rectangles.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's a good point.
So I have plenty of other topics I want to get to as well. So what was this one?
We could touch on items really quick and just say a
Yes.
flat no.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
And then we can
there's
move on.
no way.
That was
We-
on my
we
list
already know.
to say.
That's banned already.
Yeah, I think that's pretty clear. There's been no Smash game where items have survived the meta past like I guess the first year or two, even Melee. Smash 64, I think almost its entire like first couple of years it had items on. I imagine, right?
Well, there was just like a shift in the middle, not even in the middle, the earliest parts of Melee where items were ruled out, and then every Smash game following that has not had items.
Yeah, for even a second.
Yeah, so to bring that back, I think is beyond unlikely, just impossible. I just don't think there's any like the most possible is the Smash meter, which is like kind of an item because Final Smashes can be an item, but like that's the only. I think other than that, there's no way that items make it into the rule set.
Yeah, there's no shot.
I am gonna give that one the official
Yeah.
Super Smash Show thumbs down.
Yeah.
But I did find a good one on my list of things. There is a toggleable word, English.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
You can toggle on or off the rage meter or the
We,
rage mechanic.
we don't know for sure. It might be.
Yeah, yeah.
It looks like it might be.
We've seen. I think so far the evidence points to the idea that you can turn off rage,
Right.
or turn on rage. I guess.
Right.
I was discussing this with some of the other Smash 4 TOs, and they were saying like, these Smash 4 players, they don't like rage. They just live with it. And if it can be turned off, they would probably want it off. I don't know how you guys feel.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's a comeback mechanic, and I feel like stuff that we were talking about earlier, the same reason why potentially that a smash meter could be bad, or just in general, like it just allows. I don't know. There's part of it that's like, oh, it could be exciting because it keeps people in it for longer, but then it's also like, is that really what you want to have as like the result? Like it affects like the integrity of the results, like, and that's always been an issue with Smash 4 in general compared to like Melee, for instance. If you're comparing the two, is like the results are has a way higher variance. Like top players lose in early parts of the bracket all the time to people you've never heard of, simply because, well, for a few reasons, like lower stocks, rage as well, but like
Variance
I
in
know,
matchups. There's
yeah,
50 matchups to know.
Yeah, agreed. So it's like, and I know a lot of people have talked about, even players who have stayed with the community or have played it temporarily and then don't go back. It's like most people, from what I've heard, don't want rage. So I think if it's an option, the community might lean toward turning it off. There'll probably be there's always going to be at least a small portion that want it, but it's hard to know. Like, I just think that we're probably going to lean toward not using it if it's an option, but
Right.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I did a poll on Twitter when that was like, being discussed, and I think it was about 65-35 in favor of turning it off. I was surprised that it was 35%
Yeah,
to keep
actually,
it, to be honest.
You thought it'd be lower?
Yeah, I thought it would
Yeah.
be much lower. And the thing about Rage is it's not even just a comeback mechanic, because you can have Rage while you're winning and then win more,
Yeah.
right? So on one hand, I'm inclined to say it's anti-competitive because, you get beat up and then you get stronger. But in most cases, the swing isn't significant enough that it's like that huge of a deal. And then you also get the option of the win more button, right? Or the win more factor. Yeah, I don't know. I personally would want it off. I'm just like a very tight rule set kind of guy. Like in politics, man, I'm way liberal, and in rule sets, I'm way conservative. So call me a Smash Republican if you have to, but I feel like that's like definitely low key an insult. Either way, I would very much like Rage to be off if we can turn it off, because I want the move to always hit you the same way that it would, regardless of how much damage I have.
Right, and that's something that I disliked about the way Rage works in Smash 4, which is Rage has a scale. I think it's you take your first chunk of rage. You get your first chunk of rage at like 25 or 50%.
It starts at 35 and ends at 150.
Right. So every increment of, let's say, 25 or 15 or whatever it is adds more rage.
I think it's actually every percent.
Every single
scales it.
percent.
Yeah.
I always thought it was every certain interval, but okay, sure. So every percent between 35 and 150 can add rage to your character, and that changes the way your moveset works. So.
I could be so wrong about that. I could be.
No, I mean,
crucify me because I commentate the game for.
It's okay. I mean,
think there's
the concept's the same.
What I thought it was every percent, and that there's certain numbers that you hit that have a more significant jump, like it's gradual.
And I think those are
bigger
35,
jump.
50, 75, 100.
I thought 100. Yeah, like
150.
Okay,
I don't know if there's
that would make
125.
I think it's something like that. But
Yeah, but if you hit those benchmarks, or even if you're in between them, and you have a reliable, let's say, down throw up air combo as Zelda or something, some character who just would love to actually be able to land 2 hits in a row.
Right.
And with Rage, you literally can't hit your combos. That's something I actually very much dislike about Rage, and I think that has to do a lot with the scaling of it all. You have to know all of your combos for all of your opponent's percents and yours.
And your own, yeah.
And that's really frustrating.
Yeah.
And
it's kind of like formulaic in that you can predict or assume, just combo them as if they were at X% instead when you have Rage.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm at 90 and they're at 50, but this means I should actually combo them like they're at 40.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting that there's mental math going on in your head, but it's also is this the kind of thing that we think
Don't get me wrong. Yeah, is this the skill set we want to test? No,
right.
not really.
I
Yeah.
agree with that 100%. But what I do like comeback mechanics as long as they're not too sharp. A little bit. A little bit's nice. Just a touch.
No, I don't mind it. I mean, an edge guard technically is somewhat of a comeback mechanic if you
Sure.
get the right read. Of course, it's all player dependent, but it can happen. You could take no damage and still die.
Yeah.
That said, like a hard-coded one like Rage or Ultra Meter,
Mm-hmm.
for example, where you getting hit and like everything bad happening to you is what powers you up, then yeah. Not such a fan of them, but I can tolerate it.
Yeah. Well, one thing I do like about the new version of Rage in Smash 4, which has been confirmed, I believe, is there are only 2 states of Rage, on and off, and you only get it at 150, I think.
I'm not sure if that's confirmed because I've heard that like I talked to Kurl Ganehammer. I messaged him. I was like, "Yo, man, so like, what's the deal with Rage?" He's like, "I have no evidence to suggest that it's any different from Smash 4."
Okay.
So I think the jury's still out for sure.
Okay, I had heard otherwise. You may be right. I may be wrong. If what I'm saying is true, then I think I support Rage being on because in that sense, and it's also from that same source, I've heard it was scaled significantly down. Like 150% Rage.
Like not as drastic.
Yeah. Like you're not gonna kill it 30 with an up air as Rosalina.
Right.
You might kill it 70, maybe 80, but you're not gonna kill it 20. And that's the kind of Rage I can support because there's a difference between a comeback mechanic and a BS mechanic. It's actually just, like there's a huge difference. And I think if it's the kind of thing where you don't have to constantly be doing mental math in your head for your combos because I'm at 73 and he's at 92 and this, like if you don't have to do that, that's good. And if it's not as drastic, that's good. And if it's only when you're in extreme danger and you could probably use the help,
that's also cool.
I think those are all things that I can support. So
if it's like that, I wouldn't mind it, but I still think just for consistency's sake, if we had to pick, like even just like the kind of nice friendly tiger, right? Yeah. Or no tiger at all, right? Like I'm just steering clear of all tigers.
Yes, I understand.
Exactly.
It is. That is an excellent analogy. I can probably sympathize with that too. And push came to shove, I wouldn't fight too hard for Rage being on, but I would like to at least try it. That's the kind of thing I would try it out.
Dude, the wacky rule set with Stage Morph and Squad Strike.
Could be a good spot for
and,
that.
That I think that would actually just be a great format, like kind of weird Smash, like bastardized Smash, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be
a
really
little,
cool.
like a testing ground sort of for a lot of the mechanics that we're
That's
still
also
unsure of, and like that could help evolve the rule set to the one we want by having these side brackets that kind of incorporate everything is like a way to test things out. And then once something kind of we get to the consensus as a community that's like, okay, you know what, we actually want to pull that into the rule set, then that could be a way to accelerate that rather than, because it's hard to know when you're not actually using the mechanic at all how it's going to play out. Like even if Rage, if we know is the exact same thing, we already have our preconceptions. Like maybe for whatever, like it's hard to know. Like maybe it doesn't actually affect the game the same way because for whatever reason. So like having that as a way to test things out, and then maybe we bring it back in or something like that might help out. Because I think I kind of lean with you where it's like I'd rather a more conservative rule set to start with. I know that people want to like start big and then shrink it down. I'd rather start at the shrunken point already.
Yeah, same. But
my fear again is that if we start small, it's harder to add stuff than to subtract. And one other concern I have with having like a testing ground of wacky ideas is that is a good idea to have a testing ground of silly ideas, but if you just kind of throw them all in one big pot and stir it all up, you're not going to know what's
variables.
Yes.
Like,
which variable is providing the competitive integrity, which one's taking away.
Right.
I don't know because he got his final Smash meter right as the stage morph happened, and I had Rage. So
and maybe Rage and the final Smash meter together are okay, but like pulling one without the other might like make it worse or something like that. So I can agree with that.
I think I'm patenting this right now, like Wacky Smash or whatever it's going to be.
Sure.
I need a way better name, but yo, guys, look out for this format. It's going to be some questionable stages. Rage on, Final Smash meter on, Stage Morph on. What else were we talking about? Anything else
Meter
really
Rage,
contentious? Yeah. We're going to have it on. And it's all the semi-competitive mechanics, right? Like, none of them are too terrible, right? And I feel like even together, it wouldn't really be that bad. But it's something spicy.
Right. So last, known quantity that I'd like to discuss is like a timer. I don't know how you feel about time.
8 minutes, in my opinion.
I feel like 8's always been the standard. You know, Smash 4 did have 6 though, so like
with 2 stocks.
With 2 stocks, but I think
2 stock 6 minutes fine. 3 stock 6 minutes timeout fiesta, dude.
I think that's too easy to time out. So I would say 8.
I think this is a side note. I've always thought that Smash 4 should be 3 stocks personally. After at least as the meta develops to have characters like Bayo, ZSS, all these like early kill characters. You know, those games go fast. You know,
They do. I
Bayo
mean, I've
Ditto's
seen like
real fast.
45-second, minute and a half Smash 4 games more than I've seen 4-minute Smash 4 games. Like,
Right.
the game is actually blindingly fast in 2018. Like, the top 8's consistently finish faster than Melee.
Yeah.
And that's always been the benchmark, right? At the start when Smash 4 is brand new and people weren't really like comboing well or playing
Yeah.
against defensive play well, the games did really go long. Look
They
at
did.
Apex 2015, DeBuzz versus Albadongo, a couple timeouts.
And that's the thing is like you have to compensate a rule set that can go both ends of the extremes. You need a rule
Right.
set that can compensate Bayo Dittos and Duck Hunt versus like Pac-Man. You know?
Yeah, and I
Like-
think Two Stock did that very effectively in Smash
Sure.
4. I don't know. I'm always in favor of shorter individual games, even if it means expanding the set to best of 5, for example. At least, the human attention span is focused on like each unit that
Sure.
things go in, and for Smash, that's games, right? So if you're seeing a game that's 3 stocks takes 6.5 minutes with an 8-minute timer, that's going to really drain on your attention more than 3 2-minute and 10-second games, right? So I don't know, man. There's a lot of flexibility that we're going to have with this. We all have to just completely be open to a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Even be open to a brand new player's opinion, right? Because they have perspective that you don't. If you've been in the scene for so long, you're
maybe
conditioned to seeing
maybe
things
they've
one way.
played some other game like maybe they're like a big I think it's like League of Legends player and they're like, hey, how come we don't do character striking? And it's
Right, right.
well, I never even thought of that kind of context. But yeah, you're
Right.
right. Why don't we do that kind of stuff? So all right. So the last idea that I wanted to kind of put together with you guys, if we were to, it's hard to do with rules because again we don't know we don't know all the details of all the things we were discussing today, like the final smash meter, the rage toggle, whatever. But what we do know is stages. So like if we were to put together a ideal stage list, what would we want? Like, I know it's kind of hard to pull off like, oh, what stages are even in this game, but
Yeah.
assume it's in the game if it's been in another Smash game, and you'll probably be right. So I don't know what stages do you want to see for sure?
I mean, I think like a standard average Battlefield type stage and FD, like we need that. I think that's always been like a really nice variety, like kind of built into the game. Having platforms, and then there's certain characters or certain matchups that really benefit from not having platforms, and that can really swing. Like that's a natural counter pick. So I think having both of those in some format, whether it's whether we need to take an existing stage and use the Omega version or the Battlefield version, however we need to do it, I think having those is like pretty automatic. I think Smashville is like that's a very obvious thing to include. Beyond that, I mean, I feel like a lot of other stages are kind of like, a transforming stage like Pokemon Stadium. It can get a little
Right.
messy, especially
Hazards
with some,
off version, though,
Yeah, exactly. A standard 2-side platforms with the hazards off, that's much more reasonable. I think avoiding a transforming stage when possible, if that's something that's affected by the hazards off, then that probably makes a lot more things viable and could give us a lot more options. Just a variety of platforms that you can move through. I don't set platforms that you have to like actually run off of, or that you can't go, bonking on them or something like that.
Right.
That doesn't have any place. Just something that allows you to have like free mobility and stuff. But those platforms allow you to do your standing moves as well while moving vertically. Like a variety of those kind of stages, however you have to do it, would be ideal. But
Sure.
Yeah, I always struggle when it comes to picking the individual stages, right? Just because I can't remember which ones they've added to the game, which ones got revived from 3DS and stuff. But I feel like, the topic has come up enough that I have kind of a concrete idea. Like you said, a Battlefield and FD style stage, definitely. Smashville, definitely. Pokemon Stadium 2, particularly, Frozen, because of the way the edges work, it's a lot cleaner than Pokemon Stadium 1. I think that's going to be the choice. Now we get into some interesting territory with the tri-platform layout stages, right? In Melee, Yoshi's, Dreamland, Fountain of Dreams, and Battlefield, all legal, all effectively the same layout, but they're not, right? They're different stages distinctly in terms of their boundaries, in terms of the platform layouts. Some behaviors of the stages, like Fountain and Dreamland, are very different, right?
Oh, yeah.
But in Smash 4, like you mentioned before, they fused the stages together. And I think this was like the greatest transgression of the Smash 4 like rule set
100%.
committee. Because at the same time, they unbanned Lilat. They banned Lilat for like a week, or like they were about to do it, and then there was backlash, so they split or they combined Dreamland and Battlefield and had Lylat there as a necessary evil to make the stage list have a proper number for striking.
Yes.
So I don't think like we're gonna need to worry about necessary evils. We have enough good stages that we'll be able to find an appropriate number. You know, whether it's like divisible by 2 + 1 or something like that, like it always has been in Smash. But are we going to use Yoshi's, Fountain of Dreams, and Dreamland on top of Battlefield and potentially the Battlefield Omega style stages? Who knows, man? Again, they're going to be distinctly different from each other,
Well, like I
as
said,
they have been.
We can't predict what these authority figures might want, but what I can ask is, like I said, what do you want? If you could make your dream
I want
layout.
all of those stages to be completely separate because they're not the same stage. Like,
I agree.
And in Melee, where you see like this game has seen so much more hard science and like been cracked open to an extreme degree compared to Smash 4, which still has been explored pretty hard. You see people really get nitpicky over little details like, oh, it has different boundaries, man, or the platforms are different heights. That's a different stage. That's distinct in its own right, and I agree with that 100%. There's no reason to like. Because it's funny, people say like we need Lylat for diversity for one reason, right? But then like, why do you want to get rid of the triplat stages together? It's so inconsistent. And yeah, sure, they benefit the same types of characters, but that's just a byproduct of how the game is made. Like, sorry, Cloud's going to be great with platforms. Martha's going to be great when the platforms are tipper sized.
Yeah,
it's just how it is. And you can't really like patch the game inadvertently by making the stage list so picky because of that. You have to just kind of like accept what the good characters are going to be good on because they're good characters.
Right.
Right.
And there was characters that had all sorts of Lylat gimmicks because of those slopes. Like,
Right,
there's always going to be somebody that benefits from the stages that are legal and somebody that does not, or whatever.
So I'd say every stage has been legal in Smash 4. Potentially minus Lylat. Depends on if it's on good behavior or not.
Yeah. Well, it's confirmed to still tilt with hazards off.
I know, yeah. It's kind of a shame. But the edges are... Oh, wait. It's confirmed to still tilt? I thought it stayed still.
No.
Oh. Okay. Well, if that's true, then maybe, Lylat's gotta stay off. But, let's say it doesn't, right? There's still... Even if it doesn't tilt with the hazards off, it's still got that uneven ground, which kind of makes it weird. Who knows how the ledge is actually going to behave? Has it really been fixed properly?
Right.
Then Pokemon Stadium is the outlier for Melee, but all the other stages that are fine in Melee should be fine in Smash 4. In Smash Ultimate. Then Brawl had the hidden gem, Yoshi's Island Brawl, with the tilting platform and uneven ground. Very reminiscent of Lylat. I personally hated that stage for the same reason. It's like, oh man, I got landing lag because the ground was a little higher here.
Yep.
But there's no real legitimate reason to ban it, except maybe, the support ghosts. Maybe hazards off gets rid of them.
That's true.
Support ghost does come in on a completely random interval.
Oh,
whereas
no pattern.
There's zero pattern, completely random.
At
least that's how it worked in Brawl.
Fountain of Dreams platforms are random. Unlike
that's also true.
It's interesting because like Randall is on a timer, Pokemon Stadium transformations are even on a timer, but Fountain of Dreams, the support ghosts are just completely random. So.
Town and City, as I see it in the background. This reminds me, this stage is on a timer, but it's unique in that it can actually kill you. And Yoshi's Island had the same thing, where if the support ghost goes down fast enough, it kills you.
Yes.
But Town and City, those platforms going, you miss a tech through no fault of your own sometimes. Like, the platform just so happens to be dragging you out, and, like, the angle you were going at puts you right on it when it, normally, how am I going to react to that? I wasn't going to, like, miss my tech because I wouldn't have had to tech. You could say get good, but also the stage takes a stock away from you, and your opponent doesn't, right?
Yep.
So I think anything that can voluntarily kill you should be gone on principle. I would vouch to get rid of Town and City if there are enough good stages, but also I see a lot of people just saying, like, oh, it's been fine for all these years in Smash 4. I mean, not that I liked it in this game either. I would have cut it just, again, because it can kill you, even though the stage is basically fine. Like, 20
I
out
always
of
wondered
21
why,
times.
I always wondered why not just add Dreamland as an official stage and cut Town. Because Town can kill you, Dreamland can't.
I would say, swap it for Lylat. Swap it for Lylat. Yeah, Town is not as bad.
Yeah. Well, I think both of them could definitely use some work.
Yeah.
But there was a stage on the 3DS, and I forget the name. It's a Fire Emblem stage, and there's an equivalent on the Wii U. Where it's like these mechanical platforms coming up and down, and forming all sorts of interesting configurations.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
But it has walk-offs?
The Wii U one does. The DS one does not, and it's in the game.
Yeah. It's Ferox Arena, though, is the name of it. Yeah, okay, I know what you're saying. I think one of those transformations had like a hard wall or a hard ceiling,
Yes,
and that kind of was the
it
deal breaker.
does.
Yeah.
I mean, hard walls haven't killed Pokemon Stadium, so
that's also true, but
I think it would-
should.
well,
It should be gone.
sure. But
Maybe.
like, if we're going to be willing to even consider Pokemon Stadium 1 in this discussion, we should also maybe consider talking about this thing, because I think it could be a better, more interesting. Like, we wouldn't want Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2. That's too much of the same.
Right.
But like, maybe Pokemon Stadium 2, Frozen, and this
Ferrox
other
Arena
stage.
3DS,
Sure.
yeah.
Maybe consider it at
That
least.
could be interesting.
Well, I think the biggest point is that like there's a lot of stages that we're talking about from past games that we were tolerating for the
Right.
sake of variance. But hopefully we have these new options and we can get rid of having to tolerate certain stages
Yes.
in favor of just actually having a straight up better stage list.
Yeah, ditch Pokemon
So,
and
like-
Lilat, and then fuse the Melee and Smash
Yeah,
4
so
stages.
it's like hopefully
We're good.
people aren't too attached to having past stages and oh they were legal once, we should have them again. But what about if we have stuff that replaces them and just is straight up better? Maybe it's similar in some ways without the drawbacks. So hopefully that's something that we can.
Yeah, it's like
come to an agreement with.
Brinstar was legal once. It's like, should we put it in again? No.
I
Like,
think
obviously.
we need to establish hard criteria, right? And this is where things get tricky too, because number 1 is going to be no hitboxes on stages, right? Number 2 is probably going to be like no walk-offs and stuff like that, or no circle camping. But the town and city example gets really interesting if you say one of the criteria is the stage can't kill you without of not your opponent's accord, right? And that can happen on town, but it's otherwise a great stage. So things get hairy with that when you create really hard lines. You know,
Yeah,
'cause
if
could
you
find-
try to like make super tight rules, you might end up with Battlefield, Final Destination, Dreamland.
Exactly, and we're
Maybe
at
not even
square one,
Dreamland.
right?
Dreamland can
Yeah,
kill you.
right. Dreamland is
Wispy just
nutty.
pushes you off and you die somehow. Like you accidentally nair and then you're dead. Hard to say, but yeah, I don't know. Definitely gonna be really tricky to like create some sort of like list of things to check off, and then like oh, this one can accidentally do something and therefore it's off.
Right.
Can be tough.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think that is all of the time we have this week. Did you want to say something real quick?
I had one last thing that we can
Sure.
wrap up quickly that I want to touch with because I almost
go
forgot
ahead.
about it. Because it's been an issue before and then it's gone away, is a character or characters potentially being completely banned from play. That's obviously something that was a huge point of contention with
Right.
Brawl and went away. As someone who plays Melee, we haven't had to deal with it. We've had mechanics such as like wobbling and stuff that people don't want. But I'm interested, especially in your opinion, like what do you feel like? Is there any way that gets revisited, possibly, or
Right.
is that something that's like we did it once and we're not going back?
Well, we did do it once in Brawl, but then we've come to this bridge in Smash 4 where it's getting really close with Bayonetta, and then in doubles for Cloud. Cloud has been banned at, I want to say, about 50 to 60% of doubles tournaments, either entirely or double Cloud is banned. So that's, I feel like that's even a better example than Bayonetta because it's actually in place for so many events. So, I mean, in doubles, it's easy to disregard saying, oh, it's a side event, but that's still a character ban. That's like a big deal. And people didn't fight back on the Cloud ban quite as hard as they did on the Meta Knight ban, right?
Well, like, because 64 has also, they've gone back and forth with their doubles rule set, similar,
Right.
where you can't have two of Pika and Kirby. So Pika is banned, Kirby's banned, and Pika is banned. So
Right.
it's trying to encourage some sort of variety, same way with, like, banning Cloud or banning double Cloud.
I've seen in New Jersey, there's a tournament series called Future Sight that has banned Bayo in singles and banned both Bayo and Cloud in doubles. And also a lot of tournaments followed suit for doubles and banned both Bayo and Cloud. I personally agree with that. If Cloud's gone in doubles, man, Bayo has to go too. She's just absolutely ridiculous.
I'm a very unpopular opinion on this one, but I think Bayo is better than Cloud in doubles. You don't have to quote me on it, but
No, I don't know if I could agree with that. Cloud's just too insane.
we don't have to get into the details of it.
Yeah, that's a whole other topic.
Yeah, but either way, and like I think banning Bayonetta in singles is really the closest like top issue that we've seen on the level of banning Meta Knight, right? And it's like maybe 20% of people will tell you to ban her, right? And the game is almost done, so we're not really going to see the whole thing come to light. We're not going to see in like the theoretical
It's not going to happen within the
20XX,
first year.
Well, yeah, I mean in Ultimate definitely not, but we're never going to see 20XX Smash 4, right? Like hypothetical perfect play, because Ultimate's effectively just going to replace it at events.
Yeah.
So we won't know how bad top level Bayonetta is going to be for the game, or if like the ban would be justified. Or
Right, because like you have to be patient enough to let the meta evolve, because there's going to be certain characters that start. I mean, in every game, there's certain characters like, oh, this character's too good, like it's definitely top tier, and then you realize, oh wait, there's actually a really obvious drawback to the character, something that you can exploit, and then it moves down, and maybe it's like high mid tier or something like that.
Yeah,
So
and
you
it
have
comes
to
in
let it play
waves.
out. You can't. Yeah, exactly.
Plus, there's patches to consider too. Like if
Yep.
we started banning Diddy Kong in the first year of Smash 4's life,
Diddy Kong is a great
that
example.
could have been a big mistake because he got patched like a couple months later.
I feel like we'd unban any character if they got significantly
yes,
nerfed,
yes.
at least to
But
see.
I think that idea just shows how silly it would be to ban something that like is probably just going to be corrected.
Yeah.
A
Because
few
then it
months
gets
later.
a little
Gotta
messy
give it
where
years.
you're banning characters, you're unbanning. So I can see that also. It's just like
I think the only ban that I would make within the first year, as far as a character goes, would be if there's like a glitch, like a actual
Yeah.
glitch related to a character.
Yeah, I think that's
true.
safe. I mean, generally let everything run its course, at least for a while. The new engine is also going to be a big deal. You don't know how good the character really is until you've mastered the game on a certain level.
Sure.
And, even when the game dies, that's when I feel like it really, dies in terms of development cycle, right? No more DLC, no more patches. That's when you could really make the judgments about banning a character or not. Smash Ultimate could live forever. You never know. Like League of Legends is the same game. There's no League 2.
Right.
For, 10, 11 years they've been patching
Sure,
the
this
same game.
this could be like an ongoing game as service.
It's called Ultimate.
Yeah.
That means final, man.
This might actually be his last one.
Yeah, speaking of, those are my final thoughts for the night.
Yeah. So we do gotta get out of here. I really appreciate everybody coming in. When you guys aren't on this podcast, where can people find you?
so I think our Twitter is down there.
Yeah.
I'm at subtle_SSBM, and then I also stream pretty regular, 4 or 5 times a week at night on twitch.tv/ZSubtle. So, yeah.
The Z stands for Zachary.
It does.
And you can catch me on Twitter at MaxKetchum_. I also run Collegiate Star League, Melee, and soon to be Smash Ultimate. So if you're a college student, find a couple buddies and make a team. You can play in our circuit starting in the spring semester. So check out CSL. Check me out too. I'm always going to different tournaments and fun stuff like this. So if you like Smash, I've probably got something for you, or just a bunch of terrible attempts at jokes.
Yeah.
And you'll also see me fairly regularly commentating here
Yes.
for Melee on
we
Thursdays
obviously
and
do
Sundays.
our weeklies. I mean, we are all 3 of us are very involved in getting tournaments. That's why I wanted to have this panel. I was very very glad you could all make it.
Yeah, for sure, man.
The last thing I got to plug, we have a couple events coming up this month. If you are in the area, we are in Deer Park, New York. We have the Escape from Yoshi's Island coming up on the 13th of October. That is next Saturday.
Yes, it is.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
It's creeping up, man.
So that's going to have a $100 pop bonus. That is a nice Smash 4 event where we are going to try to kill every Yoshi that has ever played this game.
Are there bounties on the Yoshis?
There are going to be bounties on the Yoshis, yes.
Ooh.
We also have the following Saturday, we have Super AON, which is going to feature amazingly talented players like Over Triforce, Triff, possibly getting Maybe, and who just hit us up today? We got Absent Page just hit us up
potentially
today.
as well.
Sick,
yeah.
man.
So we're going to have some amazing players. And then the Saturday after that, we are going to have our Night of the Living Dead, which is a fighting game event featuring all of your favorite dead games like Marvel 3 and stuff like
Marvel
that.
Infinite too,
Skullgirls
man.
and
That's
Marvel Infinite. Yeah. Every dead game you can think of will be there. At least the decent ones. Anyway, that's all the time we have for you this week. Thanks for tuning in to the Super Smash Show. You can catch us bi-weekly on Wednesdays. This was a little bonus episode, so we'll be back next week again. So 3 weeks in a row. Lucky you guys. Again, thanks for tuning in, and thanks for being here, guys. We
Yeah, no
will
problem.
see you
Thanks,
next
Chase.
time. Bye-bye.